All right, hello and welcome to Double Play Sports. I'm James alongside Pat. Welcome to episode 43. We're joined today by former MLB reliever and now Reds broadcaster Sam LeCure. How you doing today, Sam?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, super happy to have you on the show. We're gonna start off quickly with a little bit about your college days. You attended the University of Texas. How did
I
your
did.
experience playing in the College World Series, because you got to the tournament and to the final in your career, how did it impact the start of your pro career?
I thought it helped me out a lot, and I think that being away from home, a lot of people might want to stay in state or near their family, and I can understand some of that too. I definitely wanted to get away from the comforts of being able to have mom do the laundry and bring me over food and stuff, and kind of figure out what life was like on my own. Um, So as far as that experience, that was huge going through the minor leagues. Playing in the College World Series, that probably helped mostly with my arrival to the big leagues. The College World Series itself, and then getting to the big leagues and really not feeling like the crowd was that much of a factor for me. Um, I wasn't real starstruck by the fact that there were 35,000 people in the stands. I'd been playing that, all college, right? So just the experience of being away from for college was helpful coming up through the minor leagues, but the actual College World Series and then playing in the big leagues, I think those things correlated really well.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Now we have to ask if you're still a Longhorn sports fan.
I am. I'm not crazy because I wasn't from Texas. A lot of guys will go to Texas and it's like, oh, that's they bleed burnt orange and all this crap, and which is great. Obviously, I'm not a huge college sport. I'm not a huge I don't know how to say this. I love sports, but I am not a huge spectator sport guy. Like I do not spend my Saturdays, watching all the college football games and all that jazz. But obviously, if Texas is playing, I want them to win. I still keep touch with all my college buddies. They're really great friends of mine, and so I was have a pretty good idea of what's going on with the Horns, and the football team's doing well right now. The baseball program, has shown some signs of late, so everything's going good down in Austin, Texas, right now.
Yeah, so you think football's got a shot at that Big 12 championship?
Sure, man. They're playing well. They're whipping up on some folks. I guess I don't even know. See, I don't even know who they're playing. I know they whipped up on Texas Tech this weekend. I think they're playing the Big 12 champ. But
Big 12 championship this weekend, yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. So they're right there, man. I mean, they got a shot at it.
Should be good. Yeah, they've been a really fun team to watch. Yours is a incredible talent. So good
Yeah.
for
Well, they
them.
lost Jonathan Brooks, a good buddy of mine's from Hallettsville, Texas, a town you've never heard of. But that's where Jonathan Brooks was from. And that dude was a stud. So it hurts to lose him, but we'll see if they can pull it off.
Absolutely. So the next section we're going to do, we've done this with a few of our guests before, and as you can see on the screen here, and if you ever watch Sam play for the Reds, he's got some pretty impressive whiskers there.
They're
This
white
section,
now, bro.
so like I was saying, you kept up a really solid beard throughout your career. For people who are maybe thinking about growing, do you have any tips?
See, I couldn't. It was all new, man. I could never really grow facial hair. And coming through the minor leagues, there was a facial hair policy. We couldn't have it anyway, which worked out for me because I had, a little bit of what you got going on right now. A little bit of the patchwork. But as you grow up, it just kind of helps. I have a really sensitive skin, so I haven't put a razor to my face since I can tell you the date, November 1st, 2011. Because of that, some of that facial hair, I was participating in Movember, which was the mustache deal, and so I was living down in Austin, Texas, and that was they had some kind of an event where people were doing like the foam and the straight razor, that whole deal, like the old school style, and they had me down to do it, and that is the last time I have had a straight razor to my face. So the less you shave, it can grow in, it'll fill in a little bit. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't shaved my face. So some of the patchy areas over the last 12 years have kind of filled in a little bit. So sometimes less is more.
Very nice. So during our research, we read an article that your mustache was named Cornelius.
Yep.
So we're interested in the story behind that name, how it got that name.
So I was in St. Louis. I can't remember what year it was. It was either probably 2011, because that was the first year I kind of grew the mustache. Me and another buddy of mine named Matt Maloney. We had a chance to make the team out of spring, and that was the first year the Reds had lifted their facial hair policy. Um, And in the minor leagues, I mean, in the big leagues, you do whatever you want, but in the minor leagues, you could grow a mustache. That was it. So he and I were like, all right, well, we're going to go mustaches through spring training. If we happen to make the team, awesome, we'll keep it. If we don't, we can wear the mustache in the minor leagues, kind of thing. Um, so made the team out of spring that year and was in St. Louis. I think it was still pretty cold. Maybe it was late April. So maybe it hadn't filled in, real nice just yet. But I was at Cheesecake Factory with some of my family. And one of my nieces, Grace, said that my mustache looked like a Cornelius. So that's where it came from.
Interesting. See, I was thinking
Yeah.
maybe Yukon Cornelius from like
Yeah.
Red River.
Well, maybe that's where she got it from. But damn,
Yeah.
man, I mean, that was how many years ago was that? 12 years ago. She's
Dang.
20 or something now. So she was, 7, 8, 9 years old when she
Wow.
gave it. So I don't even know if she knew who that was, but maybe.
That's very funny. So then touching up with a little bit later in your career, in 2014, your teammate in the bullpen, Jonathan Broxton, gave both you and Mike Leake some pretty epic haircuts. I gotta hear the
Yeah.
story. What went into that, and how did he convince you to let him give you the cut?
Well, I didn't give a damn. I was like,
Yeah.
whatever, bro. I mean, my facial hair and my hair was always kind of changing. You see some of the stuff. I had some long hair sometimes. Sometimes I'd like to shave it with the beard, have normal haircut with a mustache. Like, I didn't really care. What I cared about was winning games. And at the time, we were not. So I was like, whatever it takes, man. Like, if you think this will work, like, strap it on me. Like, let's get it done. Um, and then I pitched that, and I remember pitching that night. I can't remember if we won or not. I think we lost, but I was pitching, and I think I gave up a run. And it was during the summertime, and I was embarrassed, like to take, this guy's out there, he's getting his butt kicked, and like, I take off the hat, and he looks like an idiot with this little whatever it is. I'm like, man. So I remember kind of being on the mound, like trying to wipe some sweat off my head, like real slick, like. But yeah, that was the origin of that story. Was we were losing. I was trying to do what I could to help. I didn't do such a good job.
Well, we're interested with, as we've gone over such a great baseball beard as yourself, could you give us a Mount Rushmore of other baseball beards?
I remember Brian Wilson's the first guy that comes to mind. Old San Francisco closer. Jason Mott had a pretty good one for the Cardinals. Buck Farmer is a red right now. His is pretty strong. But as far as I mean, that take me a while to run through that. But I know Brian Wilson would be on there. I mean, that thing was something. Some of the older school guys can't really remember when it was a thing. I don't feel like beards got real in vogue until recently. I say recently, like maybe the last 20 years or something like that. But before guys, for the most part, clean shaven because they wanted people to know what they look like. Now everybody's got their social media and like facial hair is a funny thing. Riley Fingers would be a facial hair guy that's obviously
Yeah.
pretty renowned for his mustache. Goose Gossage had a big one. Rod Beck had a really good handlebar. Corky Miller, my number one of all time, one of my great friends and who I love. He'd be on my Mount Rushmore, but it'd be tough to whittle that one down to 4.
Yeah. No, those are some good names for sure. You gotta hit off on a lot of the good ones. I know Wilson, he's a icon with
Yeah.
the fear of the beard.
Yeah.
So switching back to a little bit about your career, you made your debut against the Astros
Mm-hmm.
2010, started the game. You had a good outing, throwing 6 innings
Yeah.
of 2-run ball, won the game. But in the first inning, Hunter Pence, another good beard guy and a
Yeah.
iconic guy for the Stros, he hit a homer off you. So I want to
He
know.
did.
He did. Yeah, I want to know
Yep.
in that outing how you kind of bounced back from that because that can be tricky for a pitcher in his first outing to bounce back from that.
I didn't think much about it, to be honest with you. I was like, that was a pretty good pitch. He hit it opposite field. I think it was a 2-0 count or maybe a 1-1 count, but I would call it advantage him at the time. But I thought it was a pretty good pitch. I mean, it was a bullet the other way. So I didn't think a whole lot about it. I think that's how I reacted to it. I felt like when I got called up to the big leagues, I was ready. So it was not one of those, oh no, I'm in the big leagues. I got to try harder. It's like, no, bro, like you worked your way here. You earned your way here. You belong here. Like just get right back to it. And I think I broke the next guy's back, Carlos Lee, I think. And so then it was just rolling along. And the other run I gave up that game was an RBI single to Hunter Pence. So I hadn't seen Hunter in a lot. Well, I hadn't really met him all throughout my career. We played against each other several times, but he was in Cincinnati this year. And he was doing some broadcast stuff for the Giants. So I went up to him and I made sure to, tell him for a long time I wasn't a big fan of his. But because I love Hunter Pence. I mean, I always thought he was a really good player, but some of the most notable moments of my career, he was on the other end of, and he got the best of me. So, but it was good. He's a great guy. Catch up with him. But yep, that first bullet. But yeah, just get right back to it, man. Got to get back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So majority of your or pretty much your whole college minor league career, you were a starter.
Yeah.
And eventually you would transition into a relief role. How has that changed for you? What was the change in routine, mindset, things like that?
The routine part was a little bit more difficult. I mean, I kind of had a rubber arm, so to speak. Like, I mean, I could throw and never felt like I was really getting tired. The routine part of it was more how to warm up, because when I was starting, I'd go out and throw 30, 35 pitches or something. You can't do that as a reliever and expect to be able to pitch day after day after day. You got to like tighten that thing up. One, because you got to get ready quick. And two, because you don't want to waste bullets down there because that affects you for the next day and the following day. So being able to figure out how to kind of pare that down a little bit. And at first it wasn't, I had a kind of a soft landing as far as when I first got up. They were using me as, multi-inning, swing man type of thing. Like definitely only out of the bullpen, but when I was going to pitch, it'd be, 2 or 3 innings type of deal. So I still was able to go through a little bit of that routine and figure out as it went along that I needed to shorten it up, because the guys in the bullpen that I was asking questions to, it was, hey, what do I need to do here? They're like, well, you probably ought to, you need to go from about 35 pitches before you go into 20, if that. So that was kind of the main thing as far as the routine, is just figuring out how to use a little bit less in the bullpen. And I found out pretty quickly, like I didn't need to go down there and make everything sharp. Because as a starter, I wanted to get fastball, slider, curveball, change. I wanted all of them going. In the bullpen, I was really only a 2-pitch guy. So I needed those two to be going, find those. And then if you happen to find on something else, sweet. If not, you got enough to go out there and get through the lineup at time. As far as mindset, I loved it. I think that really, I would have liked to have seen if I could have continued to be a starter, but it probably was the best thing for my career to go to the bullpen, because I love the mindset of it, that I got a chance to play every day, maybe going to the ballpark and knowing that I had a good chance to get in the game that day was fun for me, rather than as a starter every 5 days. Kind of a keep it simple, stupid approach. When I was starting, I had too much time to think about what had just happened in my last start and what was going to happen again in 5 days. As a bullpen, it was like, shit, dude, you better get over it, because you're going to have to be out there tomorrow and get after them. So, they talk about relievers having a short, memory. Your boy's got a short memory.
Yeah.
Something it seems like you got to have out of the pen. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about leadership. First 4 years of your career, you were under the management of one of the greats, Dusty Baker. Of course, yep. iconic manager. Can you talk a little bit about Dusty's impact in the clubhouse and how he was able to get you to the postseason?
Dusty was great. I mean, I think, obviously we were a good team, but I think everybody in the big leagues is good, right? And you have to just find a way to kind of speak the language of the group. And Dusty, had such respect, throughout baseball that, not that what he said was Bible necessarily, but it weighed pretty heavy, right? I mean, this guy's been in the All-Star game. He's won a World Series. He's blah, 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 all these things as a player. So, he knew how to play, right? And then he's got his track record of winning thousands and thousands of games in the big league. So what he had to say, we didn't take much persuading, so to speak, and he was such a cool dude, man. Like he said it in such a way. I mean, I think he's 70 some odd years old now, obviously just retired. But the dude's cool. He was, right around the time when Dos Equis was doing those. I would say the Dos Equis guy was, the most interesting man in the world. Dusty'd always be like, yeah, but I'm the second most interesting dude in the world. And he was, man. Like the guy knew everything, about everything, pop culture, this, movies. He's talking about jazz at 1 second, and the next second he's talking about, bullshit with Hank Aaron. And it's like, I'm like, this guy's been everywhere and seen everything. And man, then I met him I was living out in LA after I got done playing, and he was out there when he was retired. And And I was living in Manhattan Beach, and he comes into town. I'm like, well, let's get together, and go have a bottle of wine or whatever it is. And, we get there, and it's like, there's just a crowd of people around this dude. Like everybody, like he's just known. And not only that, he's just got this aura about him that's like commands some respect. It's a presence for sure. So, and then the proof was in the pudding, right? I mean, we went out there and everybody trusted him, and Dusty, we trusty. And then we go out there and we were winning games. And it's like, well, it's hard to argue with that. Like whatever he's doing, let's keep doing it. Let us keep growing how we're growing. We keep winning ball games, and hopefully we can get this thing done. Unfortunately, we didn't, but he was a big part of it, obviously.
Then I gotta ask, there's the kind of the legend in the baseball world that Dusty might have created the high five. Did he ever talk about that? Was that like a bragging right thing for him?
No. He said he said the other guy created it. Dusty just reacted to it. So I mean, if you see on the deal, like the guy's coming in, and Dusty's kind of probably was defending himself a little bit and just put his hand up, and the guy comes on with it. So that's just Dusty's instincts taking over.
Very nice. So for most of your career, you had the opportunity to pitch in front of now legendary closer Aroldis Chapman. What can you say about him as a player, and what was it like that
I wish I threw as hard as he did. I guess that's the first thing. What else? Sorry to interrupt.
And then what was it like being able to set him up?
It was cool, man. Like, so right when Chappie came over, that was my first year in AAA. That was 2010. That was when I got called up to the big leagues, because Chappie was a starter when he came over, and then they transitioned him to the bullpen later in the year so he could help him in the postseason, which he did. And then that was kind of, the story of that. They saw just what a presence that he was coming out of the bullpen, and but to be able to kind of watch him grow and come over from Cuba, and it's a tough thing, man. Like it really is. And until you see what goes on in the clubhouse, you don't understand how tough it is for these guys to come over from their home countries and be in America. And like, obviously they want to be here. Like they want to be in the big leagues and, make the money and all this jazz, but it's a hard thing. And I didn't get it until I went over the Dominican Republic and played a couple of years and was away from home and didn't know the language, and didn't know where the hell to go, and all this stuff. And it's like, man, so to watch him grow from that first year over here and then kind of grow into what he's become now, it's awesome, man. I mean, good for him. Obviously, he just won the World Series. He's his career hasn't come without some question marks, right? I mean, the only question was he's obviously talented, but otherwise there's things that he's gone through. But to be able to get him the ball, I wasn't necessarily always his eighth inning guy, but there were times where I'd happen to be the guy in front of him, and man, how crazy would that be for a hitter to come out watching a guy throwing 80 turds mile an hour and then the guy throwing 105? It's like a little bit of good yin and yang. So I felt like that worked out pretty well. But no, it was cool. And, for the most part, when you get done pitching, you kind of go in and you watch the next half inning, you watch your team hit, then you take it up to the house or to the clubhouse and, start your post game routine so you can be ready to go the next day. But when I would happen to be handing the ball off to him, I'd stay out and watch it sometimes because that, watching him come in the game, the intro and the crowd go nuts. I mean, it was pretty cool. That wasn't lost upon me.
Absolutely. So then following your pro career, you started work with the Reds pregame and postgame show on Reds Live.
Yep.
How was the transition to that for you? And then what insight from your playing career do you think you've been able to bring to that?
The transition to get to that job was tough. I didn't know what I thought I could still play, and I was kind of surprised that I wasn't. I could have taken some minors deals, but no invitation to Major League Spring Training, which I think, might have been egotistical on my part. It pissed me off a good bit. Like, man, I may not throw real hard, but look at my baseball card. Like I've had a pretty good career. Like you're not even going to bring me into camp, just to be in camp. Even if I got no chance to make the team, bring me into camp and like at least let me be a big leaguer like I have been for the past 6 years or whatever it was. So I thought I was still going to play, but it happened pretty quickly. I just moved. I had a lot of moving parts in my life at the time. So I'm like, well, okay, now what? So I mean, I took some time off. I think like anybody would, just playing golf and traveling around, doing whatever I wanted. Not a ton of time, but then I was like, well, you need to do something, bro. Like, going stir crazy here a little bit. So started looking into taking real estate courses, was enrolled to go to a community college to become a fireman. But this was something that, people told me that they thought I could do because, as you guys have figured out here pretty quickly, I don't shut up. So talking for a living is a pretty good one. And I know a little bit about baseball. So to be able to find the job took some time. Once I got into it, the transition was pretty smooth. Because again, I don't know a ton, but I know how to talk and I know a little bit about baseball, and to put them together, that was okay. The toughest part was kind of transitioning into corporate America, I guess, because coming from the clubhouse where the more you tell somebody how much they suck, the more you love them, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then you get into this kind of world, and I'm saying something to somebody that I thought was like pretty tame, and they're like, "Man, that hurt my feelings." I'm like, "Oh shit, sorry," I'm like, I meant it in a good way. So that part of it was tough, but otherwise, it's been great. I feel like it's gotten better and better as I've gone on and try to, understand my routine. It's still routine for me. I get there at a certain time. I work my, do my homework in a certain order, kind of run right up to time, rehash it before we go on air and all that jazz. And but I feel like it's gotten better and better. I'm certainly more comfortable in my skin now just to go. I mean, I was always comfortable, but just a little nuance thing that I've noticed, me get better at every year, because how do I measure that? How do I measure if I'm doing a good job or not? I feel good about the job. It's mostly the homework. If I feel like I put in the homework, I'm gonna stutter. I'm gonna say something stupid eventually. Like, as long as I don't drop an F-bomb and get kicked off the show, like I can handle it pretty much, and I'll get back at them tomorrow.
And then what can you from your insight going into this off season and next season? I mean, the Reds definitely, a lot of people weren't expecting them to be in the hunt as long as they were. They had a good year. They got a lot of promising young guys, but is there anyone on the radar you're hoping they grab this off season, or anyone you think is going to take the next step next year?
It's hard to tell. The one person I really would have liked to seen them get just got, because I love Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
I thought he would have been great because he was going to be shorter term. Because they do have a lot of young guys that need to grow. That's where kind of the question. I mean, you can't predict this stuff. Just like nobody predicted last year they'd win 80 some odd games. I mean, I was higher on them than anybody that I knew, and I predicted them to win 75 games. So, they beat mine too. And mine was like top end, I thought. Yeah. This year, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, here they come." And I'm backing off of them a little bit. Don't tell anybody I said that. But just because there's a lot of sophomores on this team. And I'm sure you guys have heard the term sophomore slump. Well, they're going to have a lot of them. So, and a lot of the strength of their starting staff hasn't had a chance to show itself because a lot of them have been hurt. So where are they at in their progression? As far as getting better and better? I don't know that, because I haven't seen any of them on the field. I mean, Hunter Green's been the only one that's really stayed on the field, and he hadn't really stayed on the field. Graham Ashcraft, another guy, he's spent most of the time on the field, but, there's going to be a little nuanced stuff that, especially for Hunter. Graham's been pitching for a long time, but Hunter, I've threw more innings in the minor leagues than Hunter has thrown in his life. And people forget about that. Like, I know he's got a couple years in the big leagues. I know he throws 100 miles an hour. He don't know how to pitch, not yet. He just blows people away because he's that nasty. But so there's things he's got to learn. The bullpen's going to need to be shored up a little bit. I don't know. Obviously, there's going to still be moves to be made. I don't think about it a bunch in the off season. When I'm off, I'm not like, who should they go get? I don't like read into a lot of it because I know most of it's speculation. Most of it's rumor stuff. And a lot of some of these rumors come true, but would I put a number on it now? No. I'd want to see the roster together, like a first game of spring training. Like, that's all start paying attention again, to be honest with you. Because until that happens, like, all of it's just a bunch of talk, and talk's cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
but I mean, do I see an avenue for them to have a really good year? Absolutely, and I hope that they do. I hope. Last year I was hoping they'd prove me wrong in a better way. This year I'm hoping they'd prove me wrong in a better way. I always hope they're better than I predict. I'm a pretty optimistic guy, but there's growth that needs to be had, and we'll see if they have it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of good young guys that could.
Sure.
Sophomore slump's a real thing, and they had so many guys that were rookies this year.
It is, but on that same token, like I say
Yeah.
that they are going to have a lot of sophomores, but man, a lot of these guys can really like play
Yeah.
ball. You
Oh
know, it
my God.
wasn't just
Yeah.
kind of flash in the pan guys. A lot of these guys, Spencer Steer, Matt McLean, Noel Marte, I really liked him when he came up. TJ Friedel, like they were consistent. There weren't huge highs and lows, with slump stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't get extra hot and extra cold. They got pretty hot and a little cold.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, I'd rather somebody stay there because, then you're going to have a guy like Ellie who at times is going to be able to carry the team by himself.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where he needs all the help he can get because he's cold as can be, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see how some of that plays out. I mean, I think they absolutely, whether it happens this year or not, I don't know. But obviously the talent they have on the field kind of speaks for itself. But the major league game is a tough game.
Yeah.
But I hope that they do a good job because I like the guys. I mean, they're good dudes.
Absolutely. So we're gonna wrap it up with our final section, which we're gonna play a little game
Okay.
of LeTrivia. We got Sam LeCure.
Okay.
We'll play some LeTrivia.
Is it about me?
It is about you. It is
Oh, and I gotta guess it.
Yep, there's some questions
Oh,
from your
damn.
career. So
Okay.
you had 2 hits in your career, both were doubles, which is pretty impressive. So big bat here with us today. But do you remember
you
who you
got it.
notched your first hit against?
Matt Cain.
Easy one. You knew that right away.
2-1, 2-2. I think it was 2-1 double off the right center field wall. We lost that game 1-0. I threw 6 innings, gave up 1 run. Was a 1-0 changeup to Juan Uribe hit in the upper deck. So you're gonna have trouble stomping me on the trivia.
Okay.
The other one was Giovanni Gallardo. But anyway.
I wasn't even going to ask that, but I did look that up. Wow, that's impressive.
Well, man, if you only got 2 of them in the big leagues, bro, I mean, I can't name all 300 strikeouts.
Yep.
So, our next question, I think, based off your in-depth answer to the first one, you should have pretty good. Who was your first major league strikeout?
Michael Bourne.
There you go.
An easy one.
I mean, you guys are kind of giving me softballs here, bro. It's like, who'd you get your hit off of? Who's your first strikeout of? I mean, first strikeout was the first batter, so that helps. That was the easy one to remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, the third one you already answered. I was going to ask. I thought this one was going to be the tricky one. How many career strikeouts you had, and you hit it right on the dot.
Well, because I mean, dude, I got lucky because I got round numbers: 250 appearances, 300 strikeouts on the nose. So those ones are easy to remember.
And for the fans, do you want to tell them your impressive postseason number?
My best postseason number is 0.
Yep. There you go. So awesome to have you on. We had a lot of fun today, Sam. It was great talking with you, and best of luck with all of your off season. Have some great time with your family, and best of luck for the Reds and for your pregame and postgame show next year. Should be good.
I appreciate it, fellas. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. You guys have happy holidays, and you'll have to catch up with me sometime soon. Maybe at the All-Star break. We'll see if I was right or wrong on whether the Reds were good.
Absolutely. We'll hold you to that. But thanks for coming on.
All right.
Great talking
All right,
with you.
fellas.